You ever notice how we call it lazy, but deep down, it doesn't feel like laziness? It feels heavier than that because laziness sounds like you don't care. But what if you care so much that caring turns into pressure and pressure turns into avoidance? Welcome to Articulated Illustration, where we see things from unusual angles. I'm your host, Dwayne Richardson Sr. This podcast is sponsored by me. And if you want to invest in purpose and build something beautiful together, let's make it happen. Today's episode is Lazy or Scared, when avoidance wears the mask of apathy. Word of the day, evasion. The act of avoiding something difficult, uncomfortable, or demanding. Not because you can't, because you don't want to feel what comes with trying. And that's where we start. Why lazy is often a cover story. Now let's be honest. Some people are lazy. They don't want it. They don't care. And they're just fine being average. But that's not most of us. Most of us are not lazy. We're conflicted. We want the results, but we don't want the pain. We want the progress, but we don't want the process. We want the glow up, but we don't want the uncomfortable truth. That transformation requires confrontation. And the reason lazy is such a dangerous label is it lets you stay stuck without even asking why. If I tell myself I'm lazy, I can shrug and move on. But if I tell myself the truth, I'm scared, now I have a problem I have to face. Because fear has layers. Fear of failing in public, fear of starting and not finishing, fear of success changing your relationships, and fear of finding out you're not as good as you hoped for. Also, fear of realizing you wasted years and now you have to catch up. So now you don't do the thing and you call it being tired, not feeling it. You call it, I'll do it tomorrow. But tomorrow becomes a graveyard of unfulfilled promises. And the scary part? Avoidance feels like relief. That's why it's so addictive. What apathy is really doing to you? Avoidance doesn't just steal your progress, it steals your identity. Because every time you dodge the work, you send yourself a message. I can't be trusted. I don't finish. I fold under pressure. And over time, you start living under a quiet sentence. I'm not that person. And that's the real damage. Not the missed workout, not the late start, not the unfinished project. It's the eternal reputation that you build with yourself. And this is why the avoidance wears the mask of apathy. Because apathy is emotionally safer. Apathy says, I don't care. Fear says, I care, and I might not measure up. So we pretend we don't care. We act numb. We act unbothered. But you're not unbothered. You're watching your life from the sidelines while your potential sits on the bench. And you keep telling yourself, I'm waiting on motivation. But let me say this cleanly. Motivation is a feeling. Discipline is a daily decision. And most of us are waiting on motivation. We're waiting on the fear to stop talking. But fear doesn't stop talking. You just stop listening to it and obeying it. Today's articulated illustration. Imagine you're standing in a kitchen and on the stove, one burner is on. You don't see the flames, but you feel the heat. Now here's the question. Do you touch it just to prove you're tough? No. You respect the heat because you understand what it can do. And that's exactly how fear works. Fear is heat. It's not always visible, but it changes your behavior. So you hover around the work, you circle it, you talk about it, you plan it. You even buy stuff for it, but you don't touch it. Because touching it means you might feel pain. And here's the twist. The stove doesn't have to chase you. It just sits there and you arrange your whole life around not getting burned. Now that's avoidance. And if you're not careful, you'll build a life that is perfectly designed to keep you comfortable and completely unqualified to reach in life what you want. What are you afraid will happen if you try? If you want to break this pattern, you have to get ruthless with truth. Ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I try? Be specific. I'm afraid I'll fail. I'm afraid people will judge me. I'm afraid I'll start and prove I'm not consistent. I'm afraid success will cost me relationships. I'm afraid I'll have to keep performing. And I'm afraid I'll finally have no excuse. Now, that last one is huge because excuses are emotional shelter. And when you remove your excuses, you're exposed. Now you can't blame the schedule. You can't blame the past. And you can't blame people not supporting you. It's you and the mirror, mano a mano. So here's the solution. And it's not sexy or pretty at all. You don't need a perfect plan. You need proof. One small action every day because it's big. Not because it's big, but because it's consistent. And consistency is how you suffocate fear. Fear feeds on imagination. Consistency feeds on reality. And reality builds confidence. Let's land this with applications. 3 moves to beat lazy or scared. Number 1, name the fear out loud. I'm not lazy. I'm scared of blank. When you name it, it loses some of its power. Shrink the task until it's impossible to refuse. Not I'm changing my life, more like I'm doing 10 minutes. I'm writing 1 paragraph. I'm filming 1 take. Stop negotiating with your feelings. Feelings are terrible managers and they will talk you out of your destiny with a small, soft voice. Now, here's the final takeaway. If you keep calling fear laziness, you'll keep using motivation as your excuse. But when you finally admit I'm scared, you can respond like a grown up. Okay, and I'm doing it anyway. Because the goal isn't to become fearless. The goal is to stop letting fear write your schedule. If this episode challenged you, that's your cue. Follow the show, share it, sit with it. And that's it for today. If this resonated, share it with someone who needs it. And always remember to do what's absolutely necessary every day. And keep illustrating your life. Why? It's your dream, your vision. Keep the pen in your hand.